So first, I'd like to give the opportunity to Councilman Dow if he'd like to say anything about what he and the other city council members are doing. I would like to particularly thank Councilman Kevin Conwell. I don't know that Councilman Conwell is going to be here this evening, but he had helped to get some flyers out about tonight's event. So I appreciate the help that Councilman Kevin Conwell and Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell, the steps that they took to help us advertise. So the court very much appreciates their help. But with that, I'd like to ask Councilman Dow if there's anything that he'd like to say about City Council and some of the programs they're working on, specifically anything to deal with housing matters. Councilman?
Thank you, Judge. How's everybody doing? Welcome for the folks that are not from Ward 7. Welcome to Ward 7, Fatima Family Center, where a lot of things go on here in our community. It's definitely the anchor of Huff, you know. And I know we got St. Clair Superior too, but we got a project going on over there, the Huff Resource Center at the St. Clair Superior Innovation Zone. All right, so we got $1.7 million being invested right on the corner of 68th and Superior. But one of the things that I would like to say, and I always say, excuse the dust. This is something that I've been working very diligently on for the last 9 years I've been in office. That once, when Ms. Lewis was in, she had a moratorium on demolitions. She wanted to rehab instead of demo, which was a good idea, but of course, our folks went in there, ripped out everything, and some of these houses are just too far gone. Now, if they're not, we definitely want to rehab, but the ones that are not in that state and they have to come down, we want to knock them down. So as of late, I hope you see the activity that's going on around our community, because there's been a lot of demolitions, and that has been a lot of hard work, working with folks down at City Council, working with the mayor's office to finally get to a point where Ward 7 gets its just due as it relates to demolitions. All right? So we will continue on that aggressive schedule. And I know some of y'all are saying I still got one up on my street. So we will get to it. Please be patient. And your councilman will continue to put the feet to their fire down there at City Hall, because I know y'all putting the feet to my fire. And you on my back, so I got to go down there and get on their back to make sure we get things done. So that just lets you know that we've continued to do that. And what we did early on was we had a booklet with all of the abandoned houses. We did the research on it, and we saw where they were. And so now that hard work is paying off, because we put that in place, and we've been knocking those houses down. So again, please be patient. We will get to you very soon. Bulldozer coming to a street near you. All right, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I know that just meeting a lot of you tonight, I had worked with Councilman Dow and Councilman Conwell and the other council members quite a bit on demolition. I'm new to the court. I came to the court in April after Judge Pianka passed. Before that, I had been the director of the building department, and so working with Councilman Dow and others, give you a little idea of the amount of demolition work that's taken place. Since the mayor took office in 2006, the city's demolished over 9,000 structures. And most of that's been using grant funding from the federal and state governments. But this year in particular, the city took $5 million from general fund money and put it into demolition projects that are near schools and on the routes to school. Because the city wanted to make sure that when the kids are walking to school and getting there, that they don't have to walk by the boarded up houses that are on their way to school, because that's not safe for them. So I appreciated working with Councilman Dow, Councilman Conwell, and the others over the years with that. So next I'd like to ask Judge Mike Ryan from the Juvenile Court if he would like to come up and talk about any of the programs at Juvenile Court. Judge.
Good evening. Again, I am Judge Michael John Ryan with the Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Division. I want to just thank Judge O'Leary for giving me the opportunity to address you this evening. I'm going to be very, very brief because this is not my program. I want to just tell you a little bit about what we do over at Juvenile Court. we have the exclusive jurisdiction over issues involving juveniles 17 years and younger. Those are criminal cases involving juveniles, as well as child support issues, paternity issues. We also deal with cases where young ladies are asking for permission to have an abortion. We call those our Jane Doe cases. And I'm just glad to have the opportunity to be one of the 6 judges that serve you every day over at juvenile court. We're located at 9300 Quincy Avenue. You have the opportunity, if you so choose to come over and watch what we do on a daily basis. Some people have this misnomer, this mistaken belief that juvenile court is closed, but it isn't. It's only closed if the judge decides to close a particular hearing. But for the most part, most of those cases are open, and you have the opportunity to come and observe. For anybody who wishes to do that, you can call 216-443-5818 and ask for Tony Williams. He is my personal bailiff, and we'll set up a time for you to come and watch. I've opened the court up to many groups and individuals, and they've enjoyed that experience. Asked a lot of questions as well, had a lot of questions answered about what we do over at juvenile court. The last thing that I want to tell you about is a program that we started about maybe 2 years ago that for some reason hasn't been advertised enough. On Fridays, we have what we call Warrant Recall Friday, which means that anyone who has a warrant for child support, they can come down to the juvenile court, pay $50, get the warrant recalled, and have an opportunity to have their case reset before a judge or magistrate. Again, that is Warrant Recall Fridays. $50, and you get to have your warrant recalled and a new court date set. You don't have to set an appointment. Just come down between 9 and 3 o'clock on every Friday. Again, I am Judge Michael John Ryan. Thank you for your attention. Oh, and that beautiful lady in the back is waving at me because I got to go with her. That's my wife. Okay. Yeah, I'm her chauffeur, so, and I don't get paid. Again, Judge Michael John Ryan. So if you have any questions, I'll stand in the back for the next 10 minutes if you have questions about what we do over at juvenile court, or if you may have an issue with court that you just don't understand how to navigate that system, I'll be in the back to answer questions. Again, thank you, Judge O'Leary.
Thank you. The clerk has a great outreach program as well for warrant recalls, and also doing things like paying for parking tickets and others, so that anyone who has those can get recalled and they don't wind up having a warrant for them. The last thing that you want to have is that you get pulled over for going through a stop sign or speeding, and there's an outstanding warrant, and now you're under arrest. So the clerk of court, Turner, does a great job getting those recalled and reset them so that you don't have that warrant, or not you necessarily, anybody that you know. Next, I'd like to let you know that Cleveland Municipal Court is one of only a few courts in the state that has multiple divisions. Most courts just have one division, but Cleveland has 2 divisions, the General Division and the Housing Division. I'm the judge with the Housing Court, but our General Division has 12 judges, and they hear all misdemeanor cases that are not in Housing Court. And they have a number of programs like our drug court, our veterans docket, the mental health docket, and the human trafficking docket. So I want to thank Judges Kalaluka and Slawinski for being here tonight. I'm going to ask each of them if they'd like to say a couple words about the programs that the General Division has. Judge Kalaluka.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Judge Janet Kolaluka, and I'm one of your judges in the General Division of the Cleveland Municipal Court. I serve you. I am a public servant, and I'm honored to do that. I'm delighted to be here tonight to support the amazing work at the Cleveland Municipal Court Housing Court, as well as these wonderful resources in the community. There's a lot of information to be shared tonight, and I know you'll get your questions answered. As I said, I'm one of the judges in the General Division. I am one of the 4 judges that hear a domestic violence docket, a dedicated domestic violence docket. I can talk to you about what we do and what we're working on, what programs we have involving the domestic violence docket. I sit on the Cuyahoga County Domestic Violence Task Force, and that's made up of stakeholders in the community that have any handling of domestic violence issues. We have members from law enforcement, from probation, from advocacy, you name it. If it touches domestic violence, they sit on that task force. And the purpose of that task force is to provide a coordinated effort in dealing with domestic violence cases throughout Northeast Ohio. And so the purpose is to provide accountability for offenders and to provide safety for victims. So we work very hard on that task force. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow. So I'd be happy to talk to you about what we do on the task force, what we do in the general division of the Cleveland Municipal Court with the domestic violence docket. So I know you're here to talk about housing issues, and so I won't go on and on, but I'll be in the back and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everybody. How are you? All right, let me start with this. Is anybody out there a veteran, a United States military veteran? We've got 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much for your service. I'm also a veteran. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm the only veteran on the court at this point in time, on the Cleveland Municipal Court. And one of the programs that we have in the Cleveland Municipal Court is a Veterans Treatment Docket. And it's one of the programs that I'm involved with at the court. And what we're able to do is have a specialized docket that is dedicated to veterans. And what we find out is that veterans do better in that docket when they're together with other veterans. And one of the things that, and it really combines the elements of a drug court with the elements of a mental health court and applies it to veterans. And one of the most unique things about that program is that we have volunteers throughout the community who are veterans who volunteer to come into court and mentor the people who are on the docket. So when a person's in front of us and a veteran finds themselves in some sort of trouble in our court for whatever reason, they come to court and we talk to them. We make sure once they're on the docket, we start making sure that they're being drug tested, make sure they're clean, make sure that if they have mental health issues, those are being addressed, homelessness issues, employment issues. We're able to address a lot of those. And then when the judge is done with them, we send them out to the hall, and the veteran mentor goes out and talks to them. And it's a great way to give them continued support, and it's a great way for them to address some issues that they might be having that they're not comfortable talking to the court about. They may not want to talk in open court to a judge about, but they can talk to another veteran, somebody who's been through things that they've been through. So it's my favorite program at the court, something I'm very honored to be able to participate in. So I will also be around for a few minutes afterwards if anybody has questions about that or any of our other programs. And again, my name is Judge Michael Slowinski. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for coming tonight. Now what we'd like to do is open it up to any questions that you have about housing matters. Our court, with the housing court, we handle a couple of very broad categories of cases. One is that we handle all the code enforcement cases that come in from the city of Cleveland. So whether it's the building department, the health department, the fire prevention bureau, the sidewalk bureau, those are all cases that come in front of me as criminal cases, anything from a minor misdemeanor where you can get a fine similar to what you get with a speeding ticket, all the way up to more severe charges where it's a first-degree misdemeanor and a person could be fined up to $1,000 per day and look at 180 days in jail. So that's our criminal side. We handle about 4,000 to 5,000 cases per year, and we have our staff, really looking with our goal being to get those properties into a safe condition. So that, at the end of the day, is our goal. And even though it's in the context of a criminal case, our staff is there to help walk people through the process so that they can ultimately have a safe property. The other large category that our court handles are all landlord-tenant matters. We handle about 11,000 evictions per year. We also handle about 400 to 500 rent deposit cases per year. And I think most people know what an eviction is, but for those of you that may not know what a rent deposit is, that's a process where if the landlord isn't doing what the landlord is supposed to do in keeping the property maintained in a safe condition, the tenant can deposit the rent with the court, and there's no filing fee for that. We open up a separate case for it, and then that money will only release so that it can take care of the problems, whether that's the landlord didn't pay the water bill and the water got shut off, or if the gas gets shut off and there's no heat, or if there's other significant safety concerns at the property. So we handle, again, about 400 to 500 of those cases per year. So what I'd like to do is open it up for any questions that any of you may have. Since it's a larger room, I may ask you to step up so I can hear, and then, for people watching on TV 20, I'll repeat the question. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's a couple of, the question was this, that Mr. Nelson gave an example of an apartment building in Euclid that had some major problems in it, no air conditioning and other matters. And his question was, how can that come to the court's attention? First, I would say this. Our court has what we call our housing clinic every day that we're open. This is a neighborhood clinic, and we try to do these throughout the city so that it's easier for people to come to us in their own neighborhood. But we only do these periodically during the year. Our court is open from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. And if anyone is living in a condition like that, whether it's a single-family home or an apartment building, you all can come down to us and talk to our staff about steps you can take. That might be that you start the process to do a rent deposit. It might be that the landlord is in court on a criminal case, and I've put the landlord on probation. We can then bring the landlord back on a probation violation. Tenants can also speak with Cleveland Tenants Organization. CTO is back in the back. Mr. Katz is waving, he is pointing up now. So please, you can go see Cleveland Tenants Organization. They're a fantastic resource for tenants, not just in Cleveland, but throughout Cuyahoga County. So that's really the first step. Come down to court, ask us, for help. Go to Cleveland Tenants Organization, or contact the building department. Mrs. Lopez from Building and Housing is here. You can send in a complaint to them, either in person or by phone or by email, and they will start the process to schedule for a rental inspection. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. So the question is the process for having a tenant leave who is a family member who is not paying any rent. You're going to need to do an eviction. There are certain things that we do. Oftentimes we will allow you to file an affidavit that would waive the filing fee. There's guidelines for that, and so we don't do that for all cases. But it is something that you'd need to file the eviction and have the person go through that process. I'm sorry? That's correct. You'd have to file an eviction case with the clerk of court's office. And again, that's Mr. Turner's office in the civil division, which is second floor filing. Yeah, so Mr. Turner's office, the civil filings are all on the second floor. The criminal cases are all dealt with on the third floor of the Justice Center. But yes, you'd need to do that. And if you have any more specific questions, the housing court staff is in the far corner. It's to my left. If you all turn around, they're in that corner. And our magistrates and housing court specialists may be able to talk to you a little bit more specifically about some issues that you have. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Question. Are there any resources available for seniors that may be victims of predatory lenders through the housing court?
The question is, are there resources available for senior citizens who may be the victims of predatory lending? What I would recommend is that they contact the Department of Aging. And is anyone from Aging here tonight? Oftentimes there is somebody from the Department of Aging. Mary McNamara is the director of the Aging Department, and that would be a good first step. They have intake staff that they call geriatric outreach workers, or GOWs. Their staff, can talk to people over the phone, at their office, which I believe is in 75 Airview Plaza. Thank you. So you can go there, or for seniors that are limited in being able to to come down to the Department of Aging, they do send their geriatric outreach workers to to people's homes. So that's something that they'd be able to do. And our staff who's here, if there's a specific person you want to talk about, our staff, Mr. Kessler is raising his hand back there. We can take the name and contact information and see if we can get the Department of Aging to outreach. You're welcome. Yes, sir. Are you the tenant?
Yeah, I was paying rent and
Okay.
they're not charging us. So they didn't move out of California.
Okay. So the question that the gentleman asked is he is staying in a house and the landlord died, and the people who I'm assuming are the heirs don't want to have anything to do with the property, and the question is, what should you do? I probably would refer you over to speak more in detail with Cleveland Tenants Organization. If the property owner has passed and no one's taking responsibility for the property, that's I don't see that situation very often. But you may want to talk to them about options for. It sounds like you might want to find a different place to stay. And they can maybe assist with that, as can some of the people back at the housing court table. But I would foresee that you may have some issues with your water bill not being paid and some other things that are you're paying it. All right. Yeah, I think that's probably a more in-depth conversation that maybe if you talk to Cleveland Tenants Organization, or even Ms. Smith is with Legal Aid. She's the lady that's right around here. She may be able to give you some more advice on how to proceed. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things I got from Concord, you had something about nuisance neighbors, bad neighbors, and also how to buy vacant houses. I'm gonna cover that tonight.
Sure. And when you say nuisance neighbors, what do you mean? Like they're loud, they throw garbage, or they're not maintaining them?
And I can see they're doing drug deals. They try to hide.
Okay. So lady had two questions. One is about nuisance neighbors, and what she described was that there appears to be drug activity, and also how she could buy vacant houses. So two separate issues. On the first one, if your neighbors appear to be engaging in drug activity, that's a police issue, and you should call the police. Same thing with if there's loud music, barking dogs, those types of issues are going to be a police matter. And so I'd recommend calling either 911 if it's an emergency, or the non-emergency number 621-1234. So those types of nuisances. Now, if it's a property nuisance, your neighbor neighbor doesn't cut the grass and it's this high at this time of year, or if there's tires dumped on the property, and not that we've had a lot of rain lately, but tires will collect rainwater, and that's a mosquito problem. I'd recommend on those things that you contact the building department. They'll enter in a complaint and then assign an inspector.
What trespassing on you empty lot and trespassing?
It's your lot. Well, then they're trespassing, and you call the police. Probably again, depending on what they're doing, either the emergency or non-emergency number. Purchasing vacant properties nearby you, or I suppose it doesn't even have to be nearby you. There's a couple of things. If it is a vacant lot next door to you, the first thing that I would check with is to see if the city land bank owns the property. They have what they call a side yard expansion program, and oftentimes they will sell the property to the neighbor who lives next door. Sometimes they have a situation where it's a vacant lot and there's neighbors on either side of it. Sometimes they will split that lot in half so that each neighbor can get part of it, for a side yard expansion. So if that's something that you think that you have, where there's a vacant lot next door, contact the city's community development department. They oversee the land bank, and they may be able to tell you, and they'll tell you if it's not a land bank lot. For vacant properties where there's a structure on it, the question would be who owns it. If it's a private ownership, what you would need to do there is contact the owner and ask the owner if they want to sell it. If they say yes, something I would caution everyone to do, make sure that you use a title company for the transfer, because there may be liens on it, like mortgages. There may be tax liens on the property, and you don't want to buy a property that has a $50,000 mortgage on it and is $20,000 behind on its taxes. So make sure that you use a title company so that you can get clear title and with the title insurance. There's another entity that owns a lot of properties that have structures on it, and that's the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. Do we have someone here? Yes. I saw your sign. I wasn't sure if I saw you here. So the County Land Bank takes title to a lot of properties with structures on them. Sometimes they come to the County Land Bank through tax foreclosure. Sometimes it's through direct donation, and there's some other ways that they come in, but those are two of the main ways. They have all of the properties that they own listed on their website, and some of them, a significant number of them, the County Land Bank demolishes. But there are a lot of them that are still in good shape, and that with some renovation work, somebody can move into and live in it. So you could look at their website to see if it's a property that they own, and they own property throughout all of Cuyahoga County, even though most of the properties are in Cleveland. So that's a good place to check, if it's a property in your neighborhood or next door, or if you're an investor who wants to renovate the properties. They do have programs where people can buy properties as investment properties. They do put certain safeguards in place, though, to make sure that the new owner is going to be responsible for them. They're very conscientious about making sure that who they sell to, that the new owner is going to be responsible with the property. Yes, ma'am.
I work for an MCO company, a managed care organization, so I do a lot of home visits, and some of our members are mentally or intellectually delayed. Are there any provisions for the court to protect those individuals other than the Tenants Association, because they may not be able to navigate the system themselves? And then my second question is, do you think that the city of Cleveland will go to a point of sales type of policy, because there are a lot of properties that get swapped, but there's no point of sales? And then are there programs, like you have the first offenders program? Do you have programs to link landlords to resources to help them, if they want to be good landlords, to help them keep their properties?
Sure. There are three questions. I'll try to remember all of them. The first one was that the lady works for a managed care organization and does a lot of home visits with her clients, and some of them may need some additional resources, maybe mental health services or substance abuse or other types of things. Is that correct? And their housing is deplorable. All right, so there's a couple of things, and I'll go to the other two questions after that. So the answer is yes, we do have resources for that. First off, if you go into a home and the conditions there are not safe, so you see that there are not smoke detectors, you see peeling paint, you see extension cords being run so that that it's a fire hazard. What you should do is contact the building department. And the building department will take the complaint and then assign an inspector. So that's sort of the first step. Second, for services that the court offers, and we mostly see this in our eviction cases, where there's an eviction that's filed and it's moving through the process. Well, we have staff staff members who are trained social workers. Mr. Kessler in the back supervises the program. We have a person who is, and he's an attorney, but he also has a master's in social work. Our staff member who is really doing all the day-to-day work on the program. She is a candidate for a PhD in social work, and she supervises 4 interns that are all working on their masters in social work. So when we have tenants that come in on eviction cases, we do a screening with them to basically look to see, are there mental health issues? Are there substance abuse issues? Are they veterans that may need some assistance? And we try to get them then in contact with the appropriate social service agencies. And we actually just received a $15,000 grant from the Adams Board to be able to more fully develop and implement that program. So that was the first question. I forget the other 2. Point of sale. Yeah, that one I'm going to defer to both the mayor and the council on. I worked for the building department for 10.5 years. And before that, I was in the law department. I was the supervisor for the prosecutors who prosecuted in housing court. My sense is that there's not a desire to do that at this point, and has not been the time that I've been at City Hall. But that's an issue. That's an issue that I would recommend that you take up with your council members and with the mayor's office. And the third question? Okay, all right. I got both of them then. So yes, ma'am. Okay.
No, we got groundhogs, we got skunks, we got raccoons and deer and cats, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so the questions about wildlife in the neighborhoods. Raccoons, skunks, deer, possums, moles. Moles, I don't know what I'd say is this: the larger animals, stray cats, stray dogs, possums, raccoons, skunks. That's an issue that the Division of Animal Control would handle. People still call the position the dog warden. Technically, the name is Chief Animal Control Officer, and it's part of the Division of Public Safety, or the Department of Public Safety. And they have programs where they will come out and deliver traps, and then they will take the animals from the traps. They have a limited number of traps that they provide. I believe it's either a $20 or $25 deposit, but you get the deposit back when you return the trap. This time of year, most of their traps are out. But what I would say is this: contact animal control. Ask them if they have a trap, and see if they can bring you one. And again, you're going to have to put a deposit down. They will also explain to you how to use it. You're not allowed to leave an animal in the trap for very long. I believe that the standard is 24 hours or less. So you have to be willing to monitor the trap constantly. Otherwise, it's animal cruelty, which, I'm sorry?
We are ladies. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I know I had a big old animal. I don't know what he got tail and he's about that big. I got some wood on the hole.
Okay.
But you want us to put a trap down there?
I'm telling you, it's available. I'm not. It's something to talk to animal control about. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew that they do have traps that you can in essence rent. The smaller animals are something different. Somebody mentioned moles. So moles, rats, mice, those kinds of things, are probably more of an issue for the Department of Public Health. And they may come out and bait for those, or you can always contact a private. I think the moles are only about this big. Yeah, they're little ones. Is it white? It might. Oh, ground. Yeah, that would be a small groundhog. I've seen them. Without seeing it, I don't know. And my expertise is more houses than small animals. But and you can always send in a complaint, through the building department, and they will route it to the right department. But that's the type of things. Now, animal control does not take skunks themselves. They have a third-party contract with somebody, because skunks obviously have their own issues that they have to deal with. But for your purposes, it doesn't matter. All you need to do is work with animal control. Did you have a follow-up question, ma'am? All right, yes, ma'am. The question was about raccoons. Anything that you can put down for them? I don't know. I think probably contacting the Division of Animal Control is probably the better route to go. I just don't know about raccoons. Personally, I've got problems with squirrels and skunks at my house that were Oh yeah, the squirrels are the skunk. I live in Ohio City, and there are skunks all over our neighborhood. When I walk my dog any given night, I have to dodge the skunks. So they're everywhere.
If the dog eat a skunk, you gotta bathe it in tomato something.
I'm fortunate that I've not had to deal with that. Yeah, I hope not to. But so I'll call my vet if that happens and see what he suggests. I think, did someone over here have a question? Yes, sir. All right, come over. Yes, sir.
Anything to try to reduce the number of evictions that we have in the city?
The number of evictions. So the gentleman's question is, are we doing anything to reduce the number of evictions? We do have, in addition to this clinic, which we do, we've done a number of them more frequently this year because it's been some time since the court had one. Also, since I'm new at the court, I wanted to make sure that people, had the opportunity to ask me questions directly, and you can always come down to court for that as well. We're going to be moving more to a quarterly basis throughout the city for the neighborhood clinics, but we also offer two other clinics. We offer a landlord clinic and a tenant clinic. The landlord clinics we will be offering quarterly as well. The tenant clinics, we're looking to work closely with Cleveland Tenants Organization. We've had some preliminary talk with legal aid and with the two law schools' law clinics about how we can get more people to attend the tenant clinics. What we like to see is that with those clinics, both the landlords and the tenants know what their rights and responsibilities are. And the thought is that the more information that we can give people about what their rights and responsibilities are, that should have the effect of fewer evictions. And evictions are a lose-lose situation. The landlord is going to be out probably at least 2 months' rent, oftentimes more if the landlord didn't file right away. And the tenant's going to be in a situation where once the tenant has the eviction on their record, that closes a lot of doors, for future rental. So our goal is to try to educate both landlords and tenants as much as possible, and therefore see that overall rate reduced. We are running slightly fewer eviction cases this year than last year, but not a significant enough number to be able to say, why that is. But we would like to see those numbers, come down because it's good for both the landlords and the tenants. There was a question that the lady up front had before we started, and it was regarding an issue with a contractor, where she hired a contractor to do some work. The contractor did obtain a permit, which is usually the first thing that I ask to make sure that the contractor obtained a permit. But the contractor hasn't been doing the work, one, up to code, and two, it's taking too long. So what I would say about having work done on your homes, first thing is make sure that the contractor does have a permit. To get the permit, the contractor has to be registered with the city's building department and has to have a bond, so that if something does go wrong, that bond money is there to be able to make a claim against it. Don't let a contractor talk you into pulling a homeowner's permit. Contractor may tell you it'll be cheaper if you do it. Well, if you pull it as a homeowner, we don't have any way of knowing who that contractor was. And you can tell us, well, it was Bob Smith Roofing, but either that's not the real name, or we're not able to track them down. I used to get extremely frustrated when I would see homeowner permit for things like putting on a new roof, and the homeowner is a 90-year-old woman. You know that she's not going to be doing that work herself. So don't let somebody talk you into getting a homeowner's permit on their behalf. Second thing, though, is make sure that the inspectors are coming out and doing the inspections. It's the contractor's responsibility to call for the inspection. But if the contractor isn't doing it, you as the homeowner have the right to call and ask for that inspection. So in the case, of what we were talking about before, that the downspout, that there was a gap between the downspout and the crock that goes into the ground. That downspout is supposed to go all the way into the crock, and it's supposed to be cemented. And if it isn't that way, that's a code violation, and the inspector, would take that up with the contractor. The other thing is that if the work is just progressing too slowly, what I would recommend that you do, and I know this is work for you as a homeowner, take pictures showing what the progress is. Everything does take time, and particularly in construction season, the contractor may be busy. But it's a question of, is it a reasonable amount of time that the contractor is taking? And if you've got the pictures showing, this is the way it looked at the beginning of May, and it looked the same in April, in June, July, and now at the end of September, it's still the same. That's information for the inspector, and the inspector can then take it up with the contractor to get it finished. If that doesn't work, the bond that I mentioned, it's what's called a compliance bond, and it's if the contractor did something not up to code, then the city can make a claim against that bond, and then that money is available to have you hire someone else to come in and fix that violation. One of the standard requirements is that the homeowner has to give the contractor an opportunity to correct the violation. That the bonding company is typically not going to pay the claim if the homeowner has told the contractor, you can't come back and nothing you say is going to make me change my mind. So you may be cutting off your opportunity for the bond there, but the building department will be able to walk everyone through that process so that potentially that money is there to fix the issue. Yes, sir. I'll take one or two more questions, and then we want to give everybody the opportunity to go back around to the tables that are here. So, yes, sir. Forget who had it. I'll take this gentleman and then you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Hi.
I have 4 small questions. The first one is, was there money allocated for the northeastern Ohio, for Cleveland area? There was some money was supposed to be allocated to bring in some fixtures and different things for Cleveland area, but HUF wasn't ever mentioned.
So,
I heard East Cleveland, Glenville, other places, they had money allocated, streets and lights.
The gentleman's question is about funds that were allocated for Northeast Ohio and whether any of it, was for Cleveland specifically. I'm not familiar with the program you're talking about, so I don't know.
Okay. So then my next question is safety issues, streetlight repairs. What should we do about getting streetlights? Like streetlights repairs. Like there's poles on our block that don't have lights on them, and then the other thing. That's all.
All right, second question is about some safety concerns, particularly street lights and lights that aren't working, and then
poles that are empty.
And poles that are empty with no lights. That's an issue that you would take up. Is it with streets or with CPP? Yeah, it could be one of those two. It could be Cleveland Public Power, or it could be the Streets Department. What we can do is, if there are particular areas, most of them are going to have some type of an identifying number on it, like a little placard. So what we can do is our staff with Housing Court can take your information, and then we could take the information from you and find out whether it's CPP or streets.
Wonderful. So like a year or two.
Sure.
My third question is, can empty lots in the area be renovated somehow to make them look more livable or sustainable, instead of, dirt fields and have dirt-filled grass. And, I'm a homeowner. So
Sure. The question was about vacant lots and making them look better. It always is going to go back to who owns it. It's ultimately the property owner's responsibility to make sure that the property's up to code. And the things that usually you're looking at are to make sure that the grass is cut to below 8 inches. There's no dumping on it, like tires or garbage. That there aren't rodents or anything that's living there. So all that the city can require is minimum code requirement. But the property owner is certainly free to always to do additional landscaping or anything to make the property look nicer.
So my question is, well, my sub-question to that is, who could I get from that particular agency, whatever, to come out to like go down my block and look at this lot and say, okay, this lot, because I won't know who owns it.
Sure, that'd be the building department, and if you that Mrs. Lopez, she's waving right now, and to maybe see particularly vacant lots are difficult to determine property ownership because there's no house with a house number on it, but the building department is very good at being able to determine where the lot is. They'll use GIS maps and other internet tools to find that. So yeah, talk to Mrs. Lopez.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is another question. Is there any type of free programs for like the elderly or maybe persons that's handicapped who have grass that need to be cut for free?
Yes.
Or shrubbery, trees.
The question was if there are any programs for seniors who need help with grass cutting, shrub cutting, and there is through the Department of Aging. It's called the CHORE program, and what I would recommend is that that anyone who needs those services contact the Aging Department. They do. I used to work with Aging pretty closely on these things, and I forget how many properties they care for, but they do grass cutting. They do some amount of leaf raking. I don't remember if they do snow removal. I want to say they don't, but I'm not sure. They do? Oh, all right. So I didn't want to tell you that the Aging Department took care of that, and then they didn't. So, but ultimately, if you speak with the Department of Aging, and it's their CHORE program, then they can tell you whether that's available or not. And I'll take the lady here, and then one more after that, and then I want everybody to have the chance to still talk to the tables. Yes, ma'am.
Please clear the housing network under the housing regulation that they're under the weatherization program, because I had some issue that they did not take care of, and they said it was out of warranty after 1 year. And then they also had information down there they needed to my house, but they did not do it. But when I went down there, they took it over.
Okay. The lady's question is about home weatherization program through Cleveland Housing Network and who oversees that. That program used to be in the city's community development department, and when it moved over to CHN, I believe, and maybe I don't know if anybody at the court knows this, I believe that would be regulated through HUD. And so does anyone know? I don't know the actual answer to that. So this is I'm sorry? The state weatherization program, and what agency? Ma'am, I'll tell you what, if you wouldn't mind giving your name and contact information to someone back at the court, Magistrate Embry is raising her hand. We'll take down your name and contact information, and we'll find that out and get back to you. I'm sorry, I just don't know off the top of my head. The lady in the back will be our last question. Yes, ma'am. So the lady's question is about a list of trusted contractors in Northeast Ohio. I don't know that there is a list like that. What I would say that you always want to do is first check with the building department to make sure that they're registered with building and housing. And if it's outside of Cleveland, you'd want to check with whatever city it is with their building department to make sure they're registered, because all of the construction is regulated under the Ohio Building Code, and each building department has to be certified by the State Board of Building Standards. Beyond that, I would probably check with some consumer agencies. You could check with the city's Division of Consumer Affairs, which is in the Community Development Department, and you could check with the Better Business Bureau and some of the construction trade organizations. And again, if you have further questions about that, we may be able to just take your name and contact information and try to get back to you on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much everybody coming tonight. Particularly want to thank, again, the organizations who are here, to provide the information, to you, about what their agency does. We are online, so if you look up the Housing Court, our website, if you use Facebook, we have a Facebook page that helps to keep people updated on upcoming events. For those of you that prefer mail, we can take your name and contact information and put you on a mailing list. We do try to mail as much as we can to let people know about these events, but Cleveland's a very big city and people move around a lot, and so it's harder to maintain that type of a mailing list. But we'd be very happy to take your name and contact information. So again, thank you all very much. Thank you to TV20 for being here tonight. This is helping to reach a lot of people that way too. Have a good evening, everyone.